All right, hello. The Family Support Resource Center presents Screen Time. So, screen time is one of those things that is truly a double edged sword. And there's so much messaging out there about limiting screen time, being careful about limiting screen time, monitoring screen time, a whole lot of discussion around that. Um, and I am of two minds on the issue. So, allow me to explain. So, one thing that we do know is that video gaming in particular, not just something that you are passively watching, but something you are interacting with using fine motor control, positively affects strategic planning, memory formation, spatial navigation, and hand motor skills. Um, I know for me, who started in front of an Atari in 1985, that this is true of me nearly 40 years later here. Um, that I can attest that those effects are real. Um, but we always have to consider our children's developmental level, sensory sensitivities, and specific learning or communication needs when interacting with the screen time issue. One way, though, I think to prioritize or sort of set the tone for prioritizing screen time within the home is to use something like this, the summer rules poster. Saw this at my wife's best friend's house, and I was like, that is great. And so it just asks our children, have you made your bed, brushed your teeth, your hair, gotten dressed, had breakfast, plus 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of writing or coloring, cleaning up one room, played outside for 20 minutes, made or built something creative, helped someone in the family, then you can use electronics. You can absolutely customize that list to your individual family needs. But for us, it's a good way to kind of set the tone. Like, yeah, electronics are good, and we prefer um, to use them because there's lots of bright colors and interesting sounds. But there's other things that are more important than just doing what we prefer to do. Prioritizing quality content is important. I am very reticent to recommend specific apps um, because for two reasons. One, because I have seen a lot of apps recommended for special needs children that really aren't very carefully engineered to actually be that good for children. And the second reason is that I think that there's just no replacement for careful monitoring of what our kids are doing and deciding what apps are good for them. For instance, in this little video, my son Gabriel is using essentially a glorified Microsoft Paint program, which incorporates shapes that you can add to drawings. But Gabriel used it for a whole other reason. And let me play this.
So tadpoles don't look like frogs at first. Yeah, and then they grow arms and legs, turn green, and finally they hop out of the water. A fully grown frog.
So I noticed that he was tapping one of these two buttons in the lower left hand corner of the screen. He did this entire drawing showing a tadpole turning into a frog, and then he undid it, hit undo until his entire drawing was undone, and then he hit redo sequentially in order to make a little animation, which he then narrated with an English accent for some reason.
Uh,
So, interactive and engaging screen time when he was even younger, he probably made that animation when he was about 5. But when he was even younger, we could do apps to where there was an element of interactivity. By in this particular one, it was like pop all the um, blue balls, and you could touch them with your finger, and they would pop, and then others would roll in. So you could sort of do color sorting like that. That kind of stuff was great. Um, of course, screen time usage. If your exceptional child is as into it as mine is, Then setting limits is no problem. There's lots of ways to do that with the Apple iPads my family uses. My wife just put in her Apple ID credentials into my son's iPad, and it time limits the or time of day limits rather when he can access that, like not before 4 in the morning and not after 7 p.m. I believe is what it's set up for right now. Encouraging offline activities at the same time is very important. This was a photo from him at preschool, and he's reading with his friend Annabelle there. And so it's always good to like try to mix it up with hands-on experiences such as arts and crafts and outdoor play and social interactions to kind of cut through just straight screen time. So that way, because if you just engage in nonstop screen time, it just kind of leads to more. Like the more you do, the more you want to do, as far as just being in front of the screen. So I think it's good to keep that well-rounded. And facilitating social interactions can be really important. And one thing that we've discussed in our home is, here's a picture of Gabriel and his sister with their Nana, my wife's mother. And they're at the park in Milton, Delaware. And one thing we discussed is like when it comes to how Gabriel and other exceptional children like process like a day out or like a day's activities, like it's important to note that like as tired and as done as people can say that they are at the end of a day, like that can be doubly so for an exceptional child who lacks the ability to filter out extraneous sensory information like Gabriel does. So, interestingly enough, when taking him into a grocery store, for example, or outside to play anywhere, he's not interested in the iPad anymore because there's so much going around, so much going on around us that is stimulating and feeds that sensory diet that he still maintains to this day. And digital balance, like I said, is just for us, it's a matter of like keeping vigilant about like what he's doing, what he's into. And when he was really tiny, we really started to try to leverage his interest in screen time to make it a learning tool. So here we were looking at photo filters 7 years ago and doing a little bit of verbal vocabulary to coincide.
Gaby, look, butterflies.
Butterflies. Oh, I don't know.
So as always, I'm always going to say collaborate with the professionals in your life. Like you never know where the next great suggestion or helpful hint is going to come from. Always try to phrase those conversations as just that, conversations. Don't try to ask people to give you a prescription for what is going to solve the problem or what is going to fix something permanently. People are reticent to give those answers, but rather if you ask them what they think about an issue, you're more likely to get some genuine conjecture about an issue. And lastly, back in September, when we finally achieved nighttime dryness, we no longer use nighttime diapers as of September. We did incentivize that achievement with a Nintendo Switch that Gabriel now uses to play Minecraft and Super Mario Maker, both of which are interactive and construction-based games. Like you're making something within the game environment. So this was Screentime, Moments with Michael. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.